Hello everyone, I am Asha Best. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you all are safe. Dear children, today I welcome you all in class 5 EVS, second part of the chapter Birth of a Nation. Dear students, before starting with the second and final part of this chapter, let me revise the first part for you all. In the first part, we discussed about the changes took place in our country after independence. We also discussed about some of the key features of our Indian Constitution. Today we are going to take the second and final part of this chapter. So let's begin. First of all, let us discuss the fundamental rights. Our Constitution has laid down the following rights for the citizens of India: right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational right, right to constitutional remedies. Dear children, these fundamental rights were originally provided by the Constitution. The right to equality includes equality before the law, the prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, gender, or place of birth, equality of opportunity in matters of employment, the abolition of untouchability and abolition of titles. The second right, the right to freedom, includes freedom of speech and expression, assembly, association or union or cooperatives, movements, residence, and right to practice any profession or occupation. The right against exploitation prohibits all forms of forced labor, child labor, and trafficking of human beings. Children under age of 14 years are not allowed to work. The right to freedom of religion includes freedom of conscious and free profession, practice, and propagation of religion, freedom to manage religious affairs, freedom from certain taxes, and freedom from religious instructions in certain educational institutions. Next comes the cultural and educational rights. Preserve the right of any section of citizens to conserve their culture, language, or script. These are the fundamental rights which are given by our Constitution to each and every citizen of the country. Now let's discuss about the fundamental duties. There are some of the fundamental duties I have mentioned here. When we talk about the fundamental duties, there are some or more rights which we haven't discussed. The cultural and educational right. It preserves the right of any section of citizen to conserve their culture, language, or script, and right of minorities to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice. The right to constitutional remedies is present for enforcement of fundamental rights. Now let's discuss the fundamental duties. There are some of the fundamental duties which are important and which are mentioned in our Constitution. Now let's discuss them one by one. The fundamental duties are: keep the country united, means each and every citizen should ensure the participation in keeping their country united. Then comes follow the rules laid down by the Constitution. Whatever rules are made by the Constitution, we all need to follow them properly so that peace and equality can be maintained in the society. Next is honor our national symbols like flag, national anthem, and many others. All these national symbols should be respected by each and every citizen of the country. to oblige with the Indian Constitution and respect the national anthem and flag, to cherish and follow the noble ideas that inspired the national struggle for freedom, to protect the integrity, sovereignty, and unity of India, to defend the country and perform national services if and when the country requires, to promote the spirit of harmony and brotherhood amongst all the people of India and renounce any practices that are derogatory to women, to cherish and preserve the rich national heritage of our composite culture, to protect and improve the natural environment, including lakes, wildlife, rivers, forest, and many more, to develop scientific temper, humanism, and spirit of inquiry, as well as we need to safeguard the public property. These are the fundamental duties which are mentioned in our constitution. Treat all Indians as equal, protect and preserve national property and environment, as well as cherish the heritage of India that we have already discussed. Then comes forms of government in India. Our constitution has provided governments at central, state, and local level. It has an independent judiciary. There are three levels of government in India: the central government, the state government, and the local bodies like municipal corporation or Gram Panchayat. The powers are distributed among these three levels of the government to easily manage the administration of the country. It has an independent judiciary so that the judicial system can be separated from all these bodies. It can be made independent. Now the parliamentary form of government. In India, we have parliamentary form of government. The Prime Minister, along with his ministers, heads and rules the country. The democratic system of government can be divided into the parliamentary and the presidential system based on the relationship between the executive and the legislature. In a parliamentary system, executive is a part of legislature which implements the laws and plays an active role in framing it as well. In a parliamentary system, the head of the state may be a monarch or a president, but both of these positions are ceremonial. The head of the government, who is generally called as the Prime Minister, is the real head. Thus, all the real executive powers are vested in the Prime Minister. There are two houses in the Parliament. First is the Rajya Sabha, second is the Lok Sabha. Parliament of India comprises President, Lok Sabha, that is the lower house, and Rajya Sabha, that is the upper house. Lok Sabha is called House of People, while Rajya Sabha is called the Council of States. The two houses of parliament are different from each other in many aspects, and hence the difference between Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha becomes very important. Now let's talk about the parliament. Both the president and prime minister are helped by the two houses, Rajya Sabha and Lok Sabha, to form policies for the welfare of the people. Means they form all these policies which help the people in living a successful and peaceful life. The union government makes laws for the whole country with the Supreme Court helping it. Now let's talk about village panchayat or Gram Panchayat. This level of government looks after the needs of the people living in villages. They establish schools, water drainage facilities they provide to people. Village level panchayat or Gram Panchayat It is called a panchayat at the village level. It is a local body working for the good governance of the village. It looks after the administration of the rural area of the district, and its office is located at the district headquarters. They provide all the basic facilities to the people, those who are living in villages. They make their life easy and comfortable by providing them all the basic needs or facilities which they require for their living. Like they establish school for the people, those who are living in the village. They provide them good drainage facility. This type of government, the local, is known as the local government. Now municipal committee or municipal corporation. Here we are going to talk about the government at city or town level. Now it looks after the needs of the people living in the cities by providing them proper roads, electricity, water transport. These are the facilities are provided by the municipal committee or municipal corporation to the people living in town or cities. The municipal corporation consists of a committee which includes a mayor with councillors. The corporations provide necessary community services to the metropolitan cities and are formed under the corporation. Now let's talk about the national symbols. National symbols are shared by the whole country. National symbols are like the national flag, national anthem, national emblem, national animal, national fruit, national flower, national bird, national tree, national river. All these bind us together and remind us that we all are one. The modern Republic of India has several official national symbols. Like I mentioned the name here. The design of the national flag was officially adopted by the Constituent Assembly just 21 days before independence on the 24th of July in 1947. All these national symbols are chosen to reflect Indian culture and beliefs, and also the positive attributes often associated with Indian traditions respectively. So all these national symbols are a matter of great pride for all of us. We should respect them. This is all about the second and final part of this chapter. Hope you liked it. Hope you understood the concept. We'll soon meet with some more interesting videos from your EVS book. Till then, take care and have a good day.